Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to take a look at the survivors. If you're not sure what survivors are, well, you're in the right place. These are the survivors that you collect while playing the game in various different ways. And most importantly, you have your legendaries, you have your epics, and then you just have your others. Your others obviously become irrelevant over time. Your epics can still play a role just because the limited number of legendaries that you can collect in the game right now and the number of spots that survivors take up. So as you play, you're probably going to have a lot of blue, white level survivors, and then over time you'll start collecting more epics, and then eventually you'll be able to replace a lot of those with legendary survivors. And the stats in all these do increase a lot. And there are certainly more important survivors than others when you're talking about things like the barn keeper, the vault keeper. Those guys are pretty much irrelevant. And we're going to worry so much about those because they are part of the vault system. And the vault is an absolute waste of time in this game. Unfortunately, it just provides no real value. So there's no reason to be wasting a lot of resources on these. And if you collect these shards, you can just leave them at 0 if you wanted to. I just happen to upgrade mine just because, but you can leave those at 0. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is the survivors that are important to upgrade. What order you should upgrade them if you have to make a choice between upgrading, say, a nurse or a miner or a mechanic. So let's talk about this in the terms of what is the best value long term. If you watch my other videos, you probably hear me talk about how things become more irrelevant over time. Things like crafting gear falls off. You don't really do that after such a period of time after you have all your legendary gear on all your heroes. And even after you say have your 3rd squad done, you really don't care about how fast you can build your gear for your 4th squad. You're just kind of doing that in the background. So leveling up your mechanics, worrying so much about your mechanics, this doesn't matter. You can do some upgrades on here if you get them. Cool, it will help out. But over time, these just become kind of irrelevant because I don't even craft gear anymore at this point. I really hope they bring out an update to make some kind of crafting update to where we can use the ceramics again for something. Fortunately, my gear just sits there. I don't do anything with my gear factory. It has been dormant for some time now, unfortunately. So some of the big ones to upgrade, definitely going to be your nurses. It's always good to increase healing capacity, your hospitality capacity, your healing speed. Those are certainly great things to work on. And then your officers for your drill ground capacity. This is a really big one. And when you're upgrading these, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but it's good to have your best survivors in your best buildings. And I'll cover that later. So your officers and your instructors, those guys go hand in hand because you want to have more troops in your drill grounds and you want to be able to train more troops. So the unit training cap is big. And the legendary survivors give you a ton of training cap increases. And then, like I said, everything else, the gold miners, the miners, the farmers, those are all associated with the resources. They can be helpful. They do increase your resources over time, but it's not a huge game breaker if you don't have legendary recruits or you're not maxing these out. If you're short on these little upgrade tokens here, prioritizing your officers, your instructors. Your officers and instructors are probably the 2 most important ones. And then your scientists, your nurses are probably your next 2 most important. Everything else you can just kind of level up over time as you get the resources to do so. With your epics, I would say only upgrade to 2-star. And if you have the resources to keep pushing, you can. but I would only do them on the ones that are extremely necessary. Like the nurses, you're not going to have enough nurses to fill them all. You're not going to have enough officers to fill all of the spots. So having a few purples that are, say, 3-star, 4-star, that's fine. Again, prioritizing your legendaries is important, but you're going to have a few of these purples that fill those spots because of the lack of legendary survivors. And I would not waste any time on the purples for, say, mechanics or the hunter spots, because you will end up replacing them with legendaries eventually. And I'm saying this all from the perspective of you are short on these upgrade tokens here on the left side. Not the actual survivor tokens, but the upgrade tokens that you need to upgrade these. If you're short on those, prioritizing the other stuff is more important. And like I said, eventually you'll replace a lot of these anyways. All right, so I'm going to talk about buildings here and how to put your survivors in the buildings to maximize things. And then I'll come back and I'll talk about Taylor and Shirley, the adventurer, and then the agent. These are the two paid survivors. So I'll cover those after we talk about the buildings. When it comes to buildings, probably the most important one is going to be your tech center, and making sure you have all your legendaries on whatever tech center that you are working with. I have 3 tech centers and I have 8 legendary survivors. So no matter what, I have to rotate my survivors around, which is a big pain, but it's better to do that than to lose out on the increased research speed time. So if you look at that time versus this one here, where I have all my recruits, 250% research speed increase versus 181%. So it's a pretty big difference, especially when you're talking about really big techs that take, say, 20 days to do. That can take it all the way down to about 16, 17 days. And it's a pretty big time difference, especially when you're trying to use speed ups to get a lot of these upgrades done. So when you're working on techs and you have legendaries, even if you only have like 3 of them, make sure you have your legendary set on whatever research center that you're about to do a tech upgrade on, so that you don't accidentally miss out on that speed increase. So we'll swap them all here. Say that I sped up and finished this, then I got my team ready to go. I can get the buffs and get that tech going. The one thing to note, if you did speed up all of your researches, you had no researches going, and you go to start a tech, no matter which center you start or you click on to start a tech, it is going to start the tech on the first tech center. So if you don't have your survivors in your first tech center and you go to start a tech, it's not going to have the reduced time, even if you click on another tech center. So just be aware of that when you are doing techs. All right, so that's pretty much it for the tech centers. I hope that helps with navigating how to move survivors around to maximize reducing the speed on researches. And then next thing is going to be your barracks. Well, I know some people like to rotate survivors around to try to maximize how many troops they're building and which barracks at a time on troop training day. For the most part, I try to split them up a little bit. My big barracks, this one is the one I have all of my legendaries on to try to get the most troops trained. And when I have the troop training buff, I train over 1,000 units in this barracks. And that's only going to get higher as I level this barracks up as well. And then I just kind of staggered out the other ones. That's my second best one, my third best, and then, of course, my last one here. If you are doing the ladder training and you don't have a very good system and you don't have very good survivors in your bottom 2 barracks, it's going to take you a long time to get through the upgrades because of the troop capacity here. And when you're training, say, 20,000, you can't just train 20 times like I would with my larger barracks. I'm going to have to train another probably like 3 or 4 times to get through all those additional units. So it just takes up a little more time. Not that it's going to change anything with your resources or speed ups. It's just going to be a lot more clicking that you're going to have to do. So not a huge deal. But whenever you're training troops throughout the week, it's just going to be less troops that you're going to be training on there. And then this is probably one of the most important ones, aside from the tech centers, is going to be your drill grounds. When you're putting your survivors in your drill grounds, the buffs that you get from the officers is going to be dependent on what drill grounds they are in. So having your best survivors in your biggest drill grounds when you're upgrading these is going to make a big difference. I mean, we're talking the difference of, it could be 100 units depending on how high your drill grounds are. It could be even 200 units. I don't know. So it just depends on how high your drill grounds are, and then stagger them all the way down. So depending if your second one is here, your third one's here, and then your fourth one, you'll want to have your best survivors in those higher drill grounds to get the benefits of those. Because as everybody knows, the more troops you have, the higher power you have, the more units you have to attack with or defend with, especially on Warzone days or even in Desert Storm. Having more troops in Desert Storm always helps. All right, time for the last two survivors, Shirley and Taylor. And why you should be picking these up if you are a quote-unquote pay-to-win or a whale, what the benefits are, what the downfalls are with these. So let's jump into that. First of all, if you are trying to get Taylor, getting her to 4 stars is probably the best thing to do, because you're getting a rare explorer chest to start here. But if you get her up to 4-star, you're getting a deluxe adventurer chest. And if you go to the VIP page, you can see what that chest looks like. So this is the deluxe chest. Click on the little icon here, and you'll see at the top here, you can get some legendary shards, some legendary resource chests, the monument, which is pretty helpful, stamina, and then you also get some speed ups and ore. You compare that to the rare chest here. This one, you only had the option of getting 1 legendary shard, the monument, and then an epic resource chest. It's a little bit less in value. So if you're talking about long term, where you're going to get the most out of, it is certainly going to be the level 4 Taylor. And how do you get that? The cheapest way to pick up Taylor at level 4 would be to buy the VIP level 1, skip 2, pick up 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So if you do that, if you pick those up, you skip 2, pick up 3, 4, 5, and 6, you will pick it up for $145. And you can have Taylor picked up by VIP 6, which most players can hit in a short amount of time. Those resources, the speed ups, the monument, which is a decoration component, the only way you can get that decoration component is through these chests here. So that's a pretty good value. I would certainly say pick that up if you're looking at ways to invest and play long term. And then next is going to be Shirley. This one is a little bit different. If you are a budget player, Shirley, you can pick her up and unlock her. It's going to take a little bit more money just to kind of get her unlocked and get her going here. But the biggest difference between her and Taylor is her stats. As you get her leveled up, they increase slightly. So unless you're a big spender, this is not one I would say I would heavily invest in. And if you look at her packs, she is a lot more expensive to unlock, because there's only so many ways to get march size increase in the game, and this is one of them. So if you are a big spender, she is a good pickup, because you do get the march size increase, and you get a little bit of hero attack increase too. Unlike Taylor though, where you get up to level 4, you get that deluxe chest, and that's the sweet spot you want to get with her. Shirley's a little bit different. You can get her up to whatever level you want to get whatever, added bonus you want. If it's going to be level 6, if it's going to be a +6 march size, +8, or +10 march size. So just depending on what you want, you'll just have to take a look at the cost and figure out which way you want to go and what the cheapest route is to get to where you're trying to go. All right, well, that's it on survivors. Let me know if you guys got any questions, any thoughts that you guys have about leveling these up, how to use them, where to put them, that sort of thing. And that's it. As always, thanks again for watching and have a great day.